Hey everybody, welcome back to Rink's Garage. Today we're going to be getting the 81 in the shop. Give her a once over, see what we're going to need for parts, see what the body looks like, that good stuff, and might even give her a name. We'll see. Let's get to her. Alright, ready? So before we get going on this project, I just want to let you guys know that 1, I've never worked on a turbo system. 2, I've done very little to LS type engines. Changed the oil, put knock sensors in my 05, but that's about as far as it goes for actually doing any kind of engine work and stuff. So you guys are going to be learning right along with me, or maybe you already know more than I do. So basically, I've just been doing some research and figuring out with the combination we got, what we can do with it, what's feasible. So let's get to her. All right, so we got her in the shop, all dried off. Taking a look at things. I did make a list of what we're all going to need. So kind of walk around it and make a plan as to what we're going to do and what parts we need to order. So first thing, we'll go over the engine. So I did take a look at the casting number, which is right here on the top of the deck. And that says J019, which I looked it up, and it is a 9953 Gen 3 engine. So along with that, I know the guy bought it through what he all did to it, so he put new rings in it, new main bearings. Of course, it's got the Texas Speed turbo cam in it, and with that, he bought a kit, so it's got new lifters, push rods, springs, all that good stuff. So that stuff is all pretty solid. It's got a high pressure oil pump in it, because we'll have to pipe into the turbos for the oil on each side, which he did. He's got the plate on there. with a line to it to come up and feed the turbos. And then they did put a, I don't know if we can see it down here. Okay, down there is a turbo drain back into the pan. So all that stuff is there to plumb it in. Other things, it does have 317 heads, which is the head off the 6-liter engine. So it's got a little bigger chamber in it, which I believe these things stock were around 9.5 to 1 compression. So that's going to drop it down to around 8.5. So a little less compression, but since we're going to be putting some boost on it, it's going to work good because we're going to try and keep her on pump gas. So probably not going to get too crazy with the boost through the 2 turbos that he's got, which are like 61, 62 VS Racing turbos. Not a spendy deal, one of the cheaper ones, but relatively small, which should be good for us because we're not going to try and get too crazy with it. Probably going to shoot for, I don't know, 500 horse at the wheels if she'll hold it. The determining factor on that is it still has the stock rods and pistons in it, which from what I've read are going to be the limiting factor on how much boost and how much power we try to get out of it, because they are just cast aluminum pistons, and if we get any sort of detonation, they don't last very long. So we're gonna have to keep an eye on that. But that's basically all that stuff. Of course, we got the turbos. We got 2 38mm wastegates for the turbos. And I do not have a blow-off valve for the intake, so we'll have to get one of them. And basically all that is a poppet valve, basically. So if you're running hard and you let off the throttle, it creates a bunch of boost in the intake system, and that'll let the relieve the pressure off. So other than that, we got to finish the intake piping, of course. He's got the intercooler mounted up here with a pipe ran underneath that's hanging way down, so we're going to shorten him up, get him up higher. So that'll come up, and then we'll have to put our our mass airflow sensor in somewhere going in, which is in the cab. We'll just try and run the stock one, which with the low boost setup I think we can do. Other than that, as far as that goes, we got, it does have a, so the LS motors do have issues with air pockets in the head. So they do sell a steam port kit. Basically there's a port in all 4 corners, and you hook a line up, and this one has a line on the front, but it's just going from head to head, which I don't know if that's necessarily correct. I think what we want to do is get one on all 4 corners. They all get teed together, and then they'll come back and dump right into the radiator under the cap here, so that if there is any air pockets, basically it'll push that air into the radiator, get it out of the system, so we don't get a hot spot. Because if you have an air pocket, that cylinder is going to get way hotter, and it could detonate the fuel before it's supposed to, which is hard on the pistons. So, and then of course, yeah, finish the intake piping, and of course the exhaust we'll have to finish, which is going to be kind of tricky. There's not a lot of room. We'll have to see if we end up changing any of the setup, but I don't know that there's a whole lot more we can do with it unless we shortened up these headers a little bit and got it back. So I need to get filters on the front of them, since we're going to be driving it around down the road, probably on the gravel too. So, and then exhaust, so we'll come out, I'm thinking we'll probably get a set of cutouts for it, so we can come out with a cutout and just dump out down by the wheels, and then run down through with a normal exhaust system with some mufflers on it for cruising in town or whatnot. So other than that, engine wise, I think that's pretty much it. We can move on to the transmission. So under here, as you can see, we got a 4L80E, and I looked up the little yellow tag here, and it looks like it's a 2001. Of course, we'll need to hook up our transmission cooler lines. There is a cooler in the cab for that, so we'll just have to mount that and hook it up. It is in here without the converter in it, as he was just mocking it up to do a cross member, which we might do a little work on that. It's a piece of flat steel. We might make a nice tube one. And then of course we'll need a drive shaft back here. And that'll go back to her. It's got a 12-bolt rear end in it, which I don't know. We'll find out how that'll last. We're just gonna run with it for now. But we'll have to see. We probably have to stick a spool in it or something, because I'm sure it's a one-wheel wonder. But there's the converter in the back. We'll probably just start with the stock converter, get it moving, see where she makes power at, and then we might end up getting a stall converter just to do a little better off the line, because I think the stock one, they probably engage at like 700-800 RPMs, which we're not going to make any power down there probably. Guessing we're going to be around 2400, something like that. But we'll do a little testing on her after we get her running and move on to that. So that's engine, tranny, rear end. Now we'll move on to the fuel system. So of course this thing is fuel injected. It's got the original truck manifold on it. We're gonna have to upgrade some injectors. So the stock injectors on this thing, if that manifold is off this engine, is probably the lowest injectors. I think they're like 24 pound per hour injectors, which we're gonna need more fuel than that. So I think we're gonna end up buying some, probably start with like a 48 pound injector. From what I read, that should handle what we're looking to do for now. So we'll have to get some injectors, and then of course we need a computer to run it all. So he did send an ECU out of something with the whole wiring harness and everything here, which we'd still have to get a tuner or have somebody tune it, which the tuner, like if you went with an HP tuner or something, I think you're going to be in for about $700-800 for that, and then figure out how to use it, and then probably take it somewhere and have them tune it. So, which I have no idea what that costs, but it's probably another $700-800. So I think what we're gonna do is we're just gonna buy a new Holley Terminator setup. So we can get a Holley Terminator X is what it's gonna be, and that'll run our fuel system and the transmission. So we can set shift points and whatnot, stuff like that. And then we can get all the necessary sensors. And it's actually, from what I've looked at, it's pretty easy. It can basically, you can punch in what you got and it'll give you a base tune and tune itself from there. And of course you can monkey with it yourself. So I think that's the route we're gonna go. Of course, we'll need the Holley to run the engine. We're gonna need a fuel pump capable of running them injectors. Probably we're gonna need 60 PSI up to the fuel rails. So we'll have to get a pump, and then we'll have to figure out where we want to mount that, because this thing of course had a carburetor on it. So it's got the old fuel tank. Well, it doesn't have a fuel tank, but it would have had a regular fuel tank where it's just pulling out of there. So a couple things I read, I think we can maybe get a fuel tank for 87, like last year, the square body ones that were EFI, and then we can get a high pressure pump that'll just drop right into that. And then of course we'll need a regulator up here to regulate the fuel pressure. And that Holley does come with the whole harness, so everything should plug right into what we got here. All our sensors. Comes with a wideband O2 sensor that will put downstream, and that'll monitor our air to fuel ratio. for tuning, because we do not want that to drop low. We want to make sure it's got enough fuel so it doesn't run lean, because that's our biggest enemy with these pistons. So that's the plan for that stuff. I guess we can move on to the old truck itself and see what we got to do to that. So of course, with the truck, we're going to need a front end. We don't have a grill, and I'm not sure with this intercooler out this far if the grill will fit on it, so we might have to take a look at that. Front fenders are actually probably the best panels on the truck. This side actually is pretty good, not too rusty. It doesn't appear to have any Bondo on it, so this one might be savable. The other side, it's got a little dent up here, and it's starting to rust out on this bottom lip, but it ain't bad. So that is pretty decent. The hood is pretty decent. There's a little crinkle up here, but as far as the hood goes, it's definitely usable, I think. Our doors, driver's door, of course, has a big dent in it. Other than that, the other door is pretty good. I don't think it's got any Bondo in it or anything. The bottom lip, I mean, there's a little rust there, but it's not bad. The cab corners and rocker panels look pretty good too, but I did some investigating underneath and they have been Bondoed up pretty good. So I think we'll just order up rockers and cab corners for the cab because they're dirt cheap. I think a guy can get both sides, cab corners, rockers, and then of course we'll get a floor plate for this side because it does have a rusted out spot there. I think we can get all that for $100, so we might as well just do that. And then what else? Of course, the dash and door panels. So of course there's a couple layers of paint in here, but they painted all the door panels in the dash, so the dash is duct taped together, as you can see. Dash is missing some stuff. So that Holley Terminator comes with a little 3.5-inch handheld for tuning, but you can also get a digital dash for them, which I think I might lean that way. And you can get a replacement bezel that thing will fit in, or we could just build something too. So that's probably the way we're gonna go. I don't know that we'll do the dash right away because they're kind of spendy, and we can do it all with the handheld that has readouts on it too. So, but we'll definitely probably end up ordering dash and door panels. Just start over with all this paint on it. Other than that, the box is pretty much, I mean, it looks pretty straight top. The inside is not rusted out anywhere. The usual spots in the back corners, it's actually pretty good. So I don't know eventually if we do entire box sides. Basically these fender wells are all Bondo. And this side you can't see it as much, but the other side does have a big old spot on it. That's actually up into the body line. This side we might be able to get away with a patch panel, but I'm not too worried about the box at this point. Probably just keep an eye out for a whole box. Maybe we could find one somewhere and just switch it out, a good one. So the body will need a little work, but one good thing, all the glass is good. Both doors, other than the blue paint they got on the side corner windows. Well, I'll try and clean that off, but no cracks, no chips. So that's good. And it must have had a visor on it at one time because it's got some holes up here that we'll have to plug. But yeah, she's mediocre at best. So now we can get on to our game plan. So the tentative plan is going to be, since we don't have any wiring done yet, everything is still pretty stripped down. I think we're going to pull off this front clip, fenders, everything up here, get that all cleaned up, pull the hood back off, get the cab cleaned out, all this stuff. Of course, we got all of our intake piping and stuff and laying in here and some other random parts. We'll get the dash and the door panels off, doors off. And then I think we're just going to go ahead and pull the cab off the frame, box off the frame, pull the motor and tranny out because we got to pull the tranny out, put the converter in anyway. We'll get everything stripped down to just the frame, and then I think we'll just go ahead and get that sandblasted and painted, and then it's done. Being we're this far, might as well do it now rather than getting it all together, and then if we decided we did want to fix on it a little bit. But so we'll get her stripped down, everything off, get blast and paint on the frame, and then I think we'll just go ahead and do new brake lines right away with everything's off, just because it's easier. And then we'll move on to the cab. I think being we got the cab off, we'll just gut it out. We're gonna see if we can get some of this paint off. I don't think it's on real good. I'm kind of hoping I can maybe take a pressure washer and peel some of it off, and then we'll sand it down. If we can get down to that original white as a base, and then we're gonna repaint the cab inside. We're gonna go black with it. Just paint everything inside gloss black, and then our new dash panels, I think we're gonna go with like a saddle brown or tan for the inside dash panels and door panels and seat. So, but we might as well do it now. So we'll get rockers and cab corners and that floor pan ordered, so we have all that stuff when it's gutted. And we'll get that welded in before we throw some paint back in her. And then from there, of course, we can start on putting it back together. We'll get the cab back on, well, motor tranny back in with the converter in, so that's ready to go. And while the cab's off, we'll probably do the drive shaft just because it's out in the open and easy. And then we'll throw the cab back on and start working on our wiring. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to get that Holley Terminator ECU ordered, new injectors, rockers, corners, floor pan, all that stuff coming so we can get rolling on it. But then once we get the cab back on and the motor in, we'll figure out what we need to do for our fenders. We'll probably, I think this one, I guess it does have a little dent here. We'll see. Fenders are relatively cheap too. Maybe we just go new fenders while we're at it. And I do have a line on a new grill and front clip for it that I could probably get for pretty cheap, so we got to go take a look at that. But then of course we'll get to wiring everything in and finishing the piping and see if we can make it run. I'm not going to worry about the box right now. Worst comes to worst, we'll stick this one back on and drive it like it is until we find one or get a plan for the box. So I'm really hoping we can just find a decent one just to throw on. But plan is we're going to keep her all flat black on the outside, gloss black inside. Nothing too fancy. I don't really want to spend a big time money on paint, so but I think it'll look all right. So there you have it. That's our tentative plan for this thing. Of course, the only other thing is I suppose we should give it a name. Had a couple in mind that we were thinking of, but I think we're gonna go with the Black Sheep C10. Just because, one, I know we're not gonna do it the right way, and I'm sure it's gonna give us trouble. So from now on, she'll be known as the Black Sheep C10. Of course, we're gonna keep her all black, and hopefully we can get it to run, and then we'll see what we can break. But that's going to do it for this video. So Next up, we'll be stripping her down, so stay tuned for that. We'll see you next time.